Hi all and welcome to today's tutorial. Today we're going to be running through running auctions on the BEF platform from the perspective of a seller. Now in this session we're going to be running through a few things, creating the asset listing in auction, updating it, launching it, but also then viewing bids, accepting bids, and then subsequent actions after the auction has ended. To start off, what we're going to do is log into our account and navigate to the My Assets tab. This will then show you all the assets that you currently have held in your account. Now, for the asset you wish to list, you want to click the List Assets for Sale button here. Now, once the page is loaded, you then have the option to select how you'd like to sell the assets. If you click the drop down, then there's the auction option. We're going to select it in our scenario. Now, in order to list your assets via an auction, the minimum number of units you need in your account is at least 100,000 units. So this is the minimum threshold needed. If you don't have that many in your account, the option for an auction won't be visible. Now, once ready, click the Save and Continue button. You'll then be asked to provide the parameters for your auction. So the quantity to be sold, as well as the minimum accepted price per unit. So this is the minimum price someone has to put in their bid in order to submit a bid. In our case, we're going to put $1, or which bids must be at least $1. And then there's option to input your minimum accepted quantity per bid. So this is the minimum number of units that the bid must at least reach. So in our case, it will be 10 units. So each bid must be at least 10 units. We then have an option to select the start date for the auction and the end date for the auction. So for the auction end date, we can change the months up in the top here. So let's put the 12th of April and we can select the exact time. Let's go for 4 p.m. and then auction start date. Let's go for March and start date at 3 p.m. Now the difference between the start date and the end date by default has to be at least 14 days. But once we're happy, we can then click the Save and Continue button. You'll then be asked to provide details on the overall project. Now, this is very similar to the other type of listing, so minimum accepted price. And to view information on that, please view the relevant tutorial around buying and selling on the marketplace. Now, what you want to do is provide a summary of the project, which includes details on the project location, its size, its high-level impacts, alongside any broader benefits alongside climate mitigation. In our case, we're going to copy and paste some generic information around forests. Likewise, the background, you want to provide a thorough description of why the project was needed, the situation for the landscape before the project started, was there any species in danger, what was life like for local communities, and so on and so on. And you have a maximum number of 800 characters. In our case, we're going to keep pasting the same content. Now, there's also the option, if you wish, to upload a document which summarizes the auction and summarizes the assets for sale. So if you want to provide that to prospective bidders, upload a file here, and that should be in PDF format. Once ready, click the Save and Continue button. You then have the option to input details on the benefits and impact of the project. This includes not only benefits from a climate mitigation perspective, but benefits to the local communities and local biodiversity. Why were these benefits important? How long-lasting will these impacts be? And it's a really good way to further provide clarity as to the real value that the project has helped delivered. And in this case, we have a maximum of 1,200 characters to input. Again, we're just going to paste our generic text. Once ready, click the Save and Continue button. You then have the option to select which SDGs were contributed by the project. In our case, we're going to put gender equality, and we have to provide at least some evidence of how this SDG was achieved, and we have 50 characters to do so. And we're going to say that 50 communities supported. And once ready, click the Save and Continue button. Next, it's use of proceeds. So here we want to provide a detail on how proceeds from this auction will be used to deliver further impact, if it will at all. And this is a really important thing for many buyers because they want to understand what their money will be used for going forward. So here, this is your opportunity to provide that narrative to them. And here you have a maximum of 800 characters to provide these details. Now, as with all the other sections in this page, which you need to input information for, we recommend that you actually create this content and really refine it before inputting it into the system, so that you, one, are really happy with it, you've spent time really crafting your message and narrative, and that you're checking that you meet these maximum character thresholds. In our example, we're just going to use the same context again, and we also have the option to upload photos for the project. So this is providing further storytelling opportunities for your auction. So here we're going to only select one image. However, you can select several. Now, if we don't like this image, we can cross off here, but provided you're happy with it, click the Save and Continue button. We then get to the final stage, which is the confirmation page, where we can see a summary of all the information we currently uploaded, including the minimum bid price, the minimum bid quantity, the quantity of units for sale, auction start date, auction end date, summary, background, benefits, SDGs, use of funds, but also we need to agree that we meet the terms and agree to the terms of the BEF platform. So click these checkboxes, and once ready, click the Save and Continue button. We then need to do a user verification, so input our password. And once ready, click the Submit button. And there you have it. The listing has been created. And we're now going to be navigated to a new page where we can edit that listing, but also launch it. So now we're on the page where we can edit any of the information we've uploaded and also launch our auction. So here we can edit the auction parameters, edit the summary and background, benefits and impacts, SDGs, use of proceeds, and also add or remove images. Now, in our situation, if we wanted to edit the auction parameters, we click this button here, and then we can change the parameters accordingly. Once I'm happy with those changes, I then need to click the Save button, and I'll then be asked to input my password to confirm that change. Now, provided I'm happy with it, I then need to click the Launch Listing button here, of which I then need to input my password. And once ready, click the Submit button. Now, one thing you really want to make sure is that all the content before it goes live is ready and no further edits are needed, because once live with the auction, you won't be able to edit any more of this information. But once you're happy, click the Submit button. And there you have it. Our listing is now live. We're now on the auction details page, which provides a high-level summary of all the information we just uploaded and verified for the auction. So here we can see the summary, the background, benefits and impacts, and use of proceeds. We can also see the SDGs, and we can click to view the data and documentation in the registry, view a map of the project location, and also see the minimum price, units available, and the auction start date and end date. Now, to actually view the auction, we're going to click this button here. So now we're on the auction page, and as you would have guessed, because the auction hasn't yet started, there's no option to submit bids, and that's why we can see no bids at present. So now back on our homepage, and the auction has started. If we navigate to the My Assets tab, you'll notice that the 100,000 units are here, but we can't transfer, retire, or do anything with them. All the buttons are disabled, and the reason for that is whilst the auction is live and the deadline hasn't passed and the auction isn't complete, these assets are locked. Now, if we go to the My Listings tab, we'll notice we can see our listing here, and there's also a button to go to dashboard, and this is visible when the auction is live. So we're going to click on this now. So we're now on our dashboard for the auction, and we can see the highest bid value, the highest bid, and the number of bids, and we can see how much time is remaining. We can also see all the current bids at present, including the organization behind them. Now, whilst the auction is live, and this is the only view you'll be able to see until the auction deadline has passed. But on this page, you can also go to the auction details page, and you can go to the auction page as well. But this is the page which will summarize all the current bids you have and give you that transparency on who is bidding for your units. So what we've done is we've fast tracked, and now the auction has now ended. Now I'm on the same dashboard for the Stellar, but you'll notice it's slightly different. We still have the bids over here, but you'll notice that there's now a section where you can select winning bids. Now, in our case, we have 3 bids for our units. And what you can do is you can select which bids to accept. So if I select bid from dummy organization and the second bid from the tree company, you'll notice that the total value of those combined bids are shown here. The total number of quantity to be sold are shown here, and the quantity remaining. So after those bids are accepted, how much will the seller retain? Now, if, for example, we wish to accept the 2 highest bids, so the bid from demo organization and the bid from dummy organization, which have the highest values, you'll notice that even if we click the checkbox and try to continue, we can't, because the total quantity is greater than that what we have available, and we can see that here in the quantity remaining because it's a negative number. So really what we want to do is select the bids and the combination of bids which deliver the most value to us. And in our situation, that's accepting the bid from demo organization and the bid from the tree company. So these 2 bids here. And here we can see the total value of those combined bids is 92,800. 88,000 tons or 88,000 units will be sold, which means that 12,000 units will be remaining, which means that after we've accepted these bids, we'll be able to receive 12,000 units back, which we can subsequently sell or retire or transfer as we wish. Now, once ready, we click the Accept Bids button here, and then we get that verification. So the total value, we need to input our PIN and confirm that we wish to accept these bids. Now, once this process has started and we've confirmed the bids, we cannot accept any further bids for this auction. So really make sure that you're happy with the bids that you've selected. Now, once ready, accept the BEF platform terms and conditions, and then click the Accept Bids button here. Now, whilst this is processing, do not refresh your page. It can take upwards of a minute to complete. And there you have it. The bids have been accepted. Now, upon acceptance, the 2 bids that we've accepted, the 5% of their bid value will have been transferred to our USD account, which if we navigate to the My Balance tab, you'll notice that your USD balance will increase to reflect 5% of the bid value accepted. In parallel, 5% of the bid quantity accepted will have been transferred to the respective bidders. Now I'm going to go to our homepage to look even further into this. Now we're back on our homepage. If we navigate to the My Balance tab, we'll notice that this value has actually increased. And if we go to the My Assets, we can see that we now have 12,000 available to transfer, retire accordingly. Now, if we navigate to the My Listings tab, you'll notice that there isn't an option to go to the dashboard. And the reason being is that now the bids have been accepted, it's now in the hands of the bidders to complete their bids and pay the remaining 95% for their bid value and pay their invoices. Now, when the bids were accepted, an invoice was automatically generated and sent to those bidders for them to complete that remaining process, of which they have 30 days to complete. What we're now going to do is navigate to the transaction history tab. And here you'll notice several different views. The one we're interested in is number of sales. And we can see now we've got 2 sales here. So if we navigate and we click the View My Sales History. So now we're on the My Sales History tab. And here we can see the total sales received. So this is the total sales actually received. So this excludes any unpaid invoices. And the total units sold. So this includes the 5% taken upon acceptance of the bids, and also any units transferred following the payment of invoices. If we look at sales per asset, we can see that we only have 1 asset that we sold, and this shows us that distribution. If we go to the total sales section, we can see the value of those 2 bids accepted. And if we navigate down to the transaction details section, we can see our 2 bids again and their quantity and value. Now, if we look at the first row, we can see that this bid, which was for 8,000 units at a value of $12,800, was actually paid in its full by the bidder. So we can see invoice paid is yes. Now, for the second bid, for the higher value bid of 80,000, we can see that the invoice hasn't been paid. And you see this message, no. Now, if the invoice has still not been paid after 35 days, you'll notice that an icon like this appears. And what this enables you to do is trigger a invoice cancellation request. And what this request does is it gives the bidder a further 3 days to pay the invoice, which afterwards that invoice is then cancelled. And any remaining units which are held in escrow related to this bid are returned back to your account. So if we click on it here, we'll see that the invoice value is for 76,000. And the reason it's 76,000 is that 5% of that bid value, which is of 80,000, was taken at acceptance of the bid earlier, which is $4,000. So this is the remaining 95% for that bid value. And likewise for the remaining quantity. 4,000 units have already been transferred to that bidder in exchange for the $4,000 paid. Now, this just provides further details of the process. And provided you're happy to proceed, click this checkbox, and you then need to input your password. Now, once this is complete and you're ready to go ahead, click the Submit Request button. And there you go, you've submitted a request to cancel this invoice. Now again, what will happen is if this invoice still hasn't been paid in that period and eventually gets cancelled, the text will be cancelled rather than no under the invoice paid section. And again, that 76,000 units associated with this bid will be returned to your account, and you'll be able to view them in the My Assets tab in your homepage.